The twin sons of Velar Prime were falling behind the mountains when the sky caught fire. Was helping her mother in the garden when she first heard the sound. It was a deep rumble, like thunder, but wrong. The ground shook beneath her feet. Her mother dropped the basket of vegetables and looked up. Her blue face went pale. "Inside," her mother whispered, then louder, "inside now." Grabbed her younger brother Tal by the hand and ran. Tal was only 7 years old. He did not understand what was happening. He kept asking questions. Why was the sky orange? Why were people screaming? Where was father? Their father burst through the door moments later. His breathing was heavy. His hands were shaking. Had never seen her father afraid before. He was a teacher at the colony school. He was always calm, always patient. But now his eyes were wild with fear. He said to their mother, "Raiders, a whole fleet. They came out of nowhere." Their mother made a sound like a wounded animal. There were slavers. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They took people from peaceful worlds and sold them to work in mines and factories on distant planets. Those who resisted were killed. Those who were too old or too sick were left to die. "The children," their mother said. "We have to hide the children." Their father nodded. He knelt down and looked at with serious eyes. "Listen to me carefully. There is a place behind the medical center, a small space under the broken wall. You and Tal will hide there. You will not make any sound. You will not come out until we come to get you. Do you understand?" Wanted to cry. She wanted to hold on to her father and never let go. But she was 12 years old. She was the older sister. She had to be brave for Tal. "I understand," she said. Their mother hugged them both so tight it hurt. She smelled like flowers and soil from the garden. "I love you," she whispered into his ear. "I love you both so much. We will come back for you, I promise." Then their father took them through the back streets of the colony. The air was thick with smoke. Buildings were burning. Saw people running in all directions. She saw bodies on the ground. She tried to cover Tal's eyes, but he had already seen. The medical center was half destroyed. One wall had collapsed, leaving a small dark space underneath. Their father pushed them inside. "Stay here," he said. "Stay quiet, we will come back." Then he was gone. Held Tal close. He was crying softly. She put her hand over his mouth to keep him quiet. She could hear explosions in the distance. She could hear screaming. She could hear the heavy footsteps of soldiers marching through the streets. Time passed, did not know how much, it felt like forever. Through a small crack in the debris she could see outside. She watched as soldiers dragged people toward their ships. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes. They wore breathing masks because the air on Velar Prime was not good for them. They carried weapons that glowed with green light. Recognized some of the people they were taking. Old grandmother, who made the best sweet cakes in the colony. Young, who worked at the market and always gave Tal free treats. Teacher Park, who taught mathematics and told her she was the student he ever had. All of them were being taken. All of them were crying. Wanted to help. She wanted to run out and do something. But what could she do? She was just a child. She had no weapons. She had no power. All she could do was hide and watch and hope. The sun set completely. The fires provided the only light. The screaming slowly stopped. Either everyone had been taken, or everyone had been killed, or everyone had escaped. Did not know which. She waited for her parents to come back. They did not come. Hours passed. Tal fell asleep against her shoulder. His face was wet with tears. His small body trembled even in sleep, stayed awake. She watched, she listened, she waited. The soldiers kept patrolling. They were looking for survivors, looking for more people to take, heard them talking in their harsh language. She did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. They were hunters, and her people were the prey. Morning came. The twin suns rose over a destroyed world. Where there had been homes, there was rubble. Where there had been gardens, there was ash. Where there had been laughter and music and life, there was only silence. finally accepted the truth. Her parents were not coming back. She did not cry, she wanted to. The pain in her chest was so big she thought it might break her apart, but she could not cry, not yet. She had to take care of Tal, she had to keep him safe. That was what her parents would want. Tal woke up hungry and confused. "Where is mother?" he asked. "Where is father?" Did not know what to say, she held him. They had to go away for a while, she said. It was a lie, but she could not tell him the truth. Not yet, maybe not ever. The day passed slowly. They had no food, no water. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning. Tal kept asking to go outside, kept telling him no. Outside was death. Outside was the... By afternoon was starting to lose hope. They could not stay here forever. Eventually they would need food and water. Eventually they would find them. And then what? Would they be taken like everyone else? Would they be sold to some faraway planet to work until they died? She thought about her mother's garden, the vegetables they would never eat. She thought about her father's classroom, the lessons he would never teach. She thought about the life they had, simple and peaceful and happy, now gone forever. They were not warriors. They were farmers and teachers and healers. They believed in peace. They believed that the galaxy was good. They believed that if they did not hurt anyone, no one would hurt them. They were wrong. The Galactic Concord was supposed to protect them. That was the agreement. They paid their taxes. They followed the rules. In return, the Concord would keep them safe. But where was the Concord now? Their patrol ships were 3 systems away. By the time they arrived, there would be nothing left to protect. Learned something that day. She learned that being peaceful and being safe were not the same thing. She learned that the universe did not care about fairness or justice or innocence. Bad things happened to good people. That was just how it was. She also learned something about herself. She learned that she was strong, not strong like a warrior, strong like a survivor. She would not give up. She would not lie down and die. She would keep fighting, keep hopping, keep living. For Tal, for her parents, for herself. Late in the afternoon, she heard footsteps approaching. Heavy boots on broken glass. The sound was getting closer. Held Tal tight and pressed her hand over his mouth again. He looked at her with big, scared eyes. She tried to tell him it would be okay, but she did not believe it herself. The footsteps stopped right above them. The debris began to move. Light poured in. Looked up, expecting to see the gray face and black eyes of a soldier. Instead, she saw something else entirely. A human. Had never seen a human before, not in real life, only in pictures and videos at school. Her teachers had told her about humans. They were a young species. They had only been traveling among the stars for about 300 years. That was nothing compared to the who had been in space for thousands of years. The Galactic Concord did not think much of humans. They called them unpredictable, dangerous, emotional. Her father had once said that humans were like angry children who thought they could fight anyone. He did not mean it in a cruel way. He just thought humans were foolish for always getting into conflicts. But now, looking up at the human face above her, felt something unexpected. She felt hope. The human was a woman. She had pale skin and dark hair cut very short. There was a long scar on her face, running from her forehead down to her jaw. Her eyes were brown, small compared to eyes, but they were sharp and alert. She was wearing armor that looked old and damaged. She carried a large gun in her hands. Found them, the human said into a small device on her wrist. Her voice was low and rough, like she had not slept in days. 2 children. They are alive. A voice crackled back through the device. Could not understand the words. The human looked down at Tal. She did not smile. Her face was serious and tired, but there was something in her eyes that was not threatening, something almost gentle. "Come with me," she said slowly, speaking the common galactic language. "Quickly, more are coming." Did not move. She had been taught to be careful around strangers, especially humans. She did not know if she could trust this woman. The human seemed to understand. She did not try to grab them or force them to come. Instead, she lowered herself down until her face was at the same level as face. "My name is," she said. "I am not here to hurt you, but there are bad people coming. I cannot keep you safe if you stay here. Do you understand what I am saying?" Before could answer, Tal pulled himself free from her arms. He looked at the human with his big, innocent eyes. "Are our parents dead?" he asked. The question hung in the air, wanted to tell him to be quiet. She wanted to protect him from the truth, but it was too late. His face changed. For just a moment saw pain flash across her features. Real pain, deep pain. Then it was gone, hidden behind that serious expression again. "I do not know," said. "I am sorry. I wish I could tell you something different." It was honest. It was terrible. But somehow the honesty made trust her more than any lie would have. Made her decision. She reached up and took the human's hand. It was warm and rough, covered in small scars and calluses, a hand that had seen many fights. "We will come with you," said. Nodded once. She helped them climb out of the debris. The colony looked even worse from outside. Everything was destroyed. Fires still burned in some places. The air was hard to breathe. "Stay close to me," said. "Do not make noise. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide, understood?" Both children nodded. Moved like a shadow. She was fast and quiet, always checking corners and watching the sky. She held her gun ready but never seemed nervous. She had done this before, many times. They moved through the ruined streets, saw more bodies. She tried not to look. She tried to make sure Tal did not look either, but it was impossible to avoid them all. At one point, suddenly stopped. She pushed the children behind a broken wall and held up her hand for silence. Could hear footsteps nearby. Soldiers. They were close. Pressed herself against the wall. Her breathing was slow and controlled. Her finger rested near the trigger of her gun. She was ready to fight if she had to. The footsteps passed. The soldiers moved away. Waited another full minute before moving again. She was patient, careful. She was not going to take any chances with their lives. They reached the edge of the colony. Beyond it was open farmland, now burned and ruined. In the distance could see a ship. It was not like any ship she had seen before. It was ugly and rough, covered in patches and weapons. It looked like it had been through 100 battles. Other humans were waiting near the ship. They were carrying people on stretchers, loading them inside. Realized they were other survivors. The humans had saved others too. "How many?" asked one of the other humans as they approached. 47 so far," the man replied. He was tall with dark skin and tired eyes. Most of them children and elderly, that took the rest. Made a sound of frustration. "We should have been here sooner. We came as fast as we could. The Concord patrol is still 2 days away. At least we got here." Looked back at Tal. "Get them inside, have checked them for injuries." The tall man nodded. He bent down to look at the children. "Hey there," he said softly. "My name is, you are safe now, come with me." He led them up a ramp and into the ship. Inside it was cramped and noisy. There were people everywhere. Survivors sitting against walls, wrapped in blankets, drinking water. Human crew members running back and forth, carrying supplies and treating wounds. Brought them to a small room with medical equipment. An older human man was there. He had gray hair and a kind face. He looked like someone's grandfather. "More little ones," he said when he saw them. "Come, sit here. Let me make sure you are not hurt." His name was. He spoke gently as he checked them over with strange machines. He gave Tal a piece of sweet food and told him he was very brave. He looked at the cuts on his hands and cleaned them carefully. "You took good care of your brother," said Tu. "That was very difficult. You should be proud." Did not feel proud. She felt empty and tired and scared, but she appreciated his kindness. "Why are you here?" she asked. The question had been burning in her mind since found them. Humans have no business on Velar Prime, no treaties with us. The conquered did not send you. Smiled sadly. No, the conquered did not send us. Then why did you come? The old man was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be thinking about how to explain. A long time ago, he began, when humans first went to space, we were alone. No one welcomed us. No one helped us. We had to fight for everything. Many times we almost did not survive. We learned what it feels like to be small and weak in a universe that does not care about you. He put away his medical tools and looked at with serious eyes. Some humans decided that this was wrong, that if no one else would help the weak and the helpless, we would do it ourselves, even when it is not our problem, even when we gain nothing from it, because it is the right thing to do. Frowned, that makes no sense. You risk your lives for strangers, you gain nothing. Chuckled softly. You sound like the conquered diplomats. They say the same thing, they do not understand humans. Then help me understand. Thought for a moment. Then he said, when you held your brother in that dark place, when you kept him quiet and safe even though you were scared, why did you do it? Because he is my brother, I love him. And if he was not your brother, if he was just some child you had never met? Hesitated. She wanted to say it would be different, but would it? If she had found some other scared child hiding in the rubble, would she have left them behind? I would still help him, she admitted. Nodded. That is why we are here, because to us everyone is family, every child hiding in the dark, every person crying for help. They are all our brothers and sisters, and we will never leave them behind. The door opened. Walked in. Her armor was dirty and there was a new cut on her arm, but she seemed okay. We are leaving soon, she said. Reinforcements are coming. The captain wants to be gone before they arrive. She looked at Tal. Something in her hard expression softened just a little. I told you I would come back, she said. And despite everything, despite all the death and fear and loss, felt something warm bloom in her chest. It was small and fragile, like a tiny flame in the darkness. It was hope. The ship was called Defiance. Saw the name painted on the wall in big, bold letters when led them deeper inside. It was a human word that meant refusing to give up, refusing to obey when someone tried to control you. Thought it was a good name for this strange, ugly ship. Everything about Defiance was different from the smooth, elegant vessels of the Galactic Concord. The walls were made of metal plates welded together, some of them different colors where repairs had been made. Pipes and wires ran along the ceiling where anyone could see them. The floors were scratched and worn from years of heavy boots walking over them. But it was also warm. There were pictures and small decorations everywhere. Someone had painted flowers on one wall. Someone else had hung colorful cloth over a doorway. These humans had made this ship their home. Brought them to a small room with 2 beds built into the wall. It was tiny, barely big enough for both of them, but it was clean and safe. You will stay here for now, said. The bathroom is down the hall. If you need anything, ask any crew member. They will help you. Tal immediately climbed onto one of the beds. He was exhausted. Within minutes, he was asleep, curled up into a small ball like he used to do when he was very young. Sat on the other bed but could not sleep. Her mind was too full of questions, too full of memories. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fire and smoke and screaming. The ship shuddered and hummed. They were taking off, leaving Velar Prime behind, leaving everything had ever known. She felt tears finally come to her eyes. She cried silently, not wanting to wake Tal. She cried for her parents, for her home, for the garden she would never see again, for the life that was stolen from her. After a while, there was a soft knock on the door. Stood there with a tray of food. You should eat, she said. It has been a long time. Wiped her eyes. She did not want this hard human warrior to see her crying, but did not seem to judge her. She just set the tray down and sat on the floor near the door. It is okay to cry, said quietly. Crying does not make you weak. are not supposed to show too much emotion, said. We are supposed to be calm and logical. That sounds exhausting. Almost laughed. It surprised her. She did not think she could laugh ever again after what happened, but something about's blunt honesty was funny. She picked up some of the food. It was strange but not bad. Some kind of grain mixed with vegetables she did not recognize. She ate slowly, realizing how hungry she actually was. Can I ask you something? Said. Yes. Your scar, how did you get it? Touched her face, tracing the long line from her temple to her jaw. A fight years ago. I was protecting someone. I did not move fast enough. Did the person you were protecting survive? Yes. Then it was worth it. Looked at her with something like surprise. Then she nodded slowly. Yes, it was worth it. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The ship hummed around them. Somewhere in the distance could hear voices and footsteps, the sounds of life. What will happen to us now? Asked. Where will we go? First we go to a place called Neutral Station. It is a big space station where many species meet. The Conquered has offices there. They will help find places for all the survivors. Like an orphanage. His jaw tightened. Maybe, I do not know. The Conquered has systems for refugees, rules and procedures. The way she said it made clear what she thought of those rules and procedures. Not much. You do not like the Conquered, observed. The Conquered watched your planet for months. They knew they were interested. They knew an attack was possible. They could have sent ships to protect you. They did not. Why not? Because protecting a small farming colony costs money and resources. Because the Conquered only moves when it benefits them. Because they talk about peace and justice but do nothing when real evil comes. There was anger in his voice, old anger held for a long time. And you, what do you get from this? Asked. You risk your lives, damage your ship, use your supplies. What do humans gain? Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. 50 years ago, when I was younger than you, there was a plague on my home world, a sickness that killed many people. My parents got sick. The Conquered said they would send medicine, but they were slow. They had to fill out forms, follow procedures. By the time help came, my parents were dead. She looked out with eyes that had seen too much pain. A group of human traders heard about our planet. They were not rich. They were not powerful, but they had medicine and they came to help. They saved my life. They saved my village. When I asked them why, they said it was because someone had to. Stood up. That is why I do this. Because someone helped me when I needed it. Now I help others. Maybe one day the people I save will help someone else. And slowly, little by little, the universe becomes less cruel. It was a beautiful idea. Had never heard anyone talk like this before. The Conquered spoke of treaties and trade agreements and political balance. They never spoke of kindness for its own sake. That is, searched for the right word, that is very human of you. Actually smiled. It transformed her hard face into something almost pretty. I will take that as a compliment. She moved toward the door but stopped. Get some rest. The journey to Neutral Station will take 2 days. I will check on you later. After she left, lay back on her bed. She looked at the metal ceiling covered in pipes and wires. She thought about what it said, about kindness spreading from person to person like ripples in water. She thought about her parents. They had been kind people. They helped their neighbors. They welcomed strangers. They believed in the goodness of others. Maybe that was not foolish. Maybe that was the bravest thing of all. Fell asleep eventually. She dreamed of fire and running and screaming. But she also dreamed of a rough, warm hand pulling her out of the darkness. A face saying her name. A ship called Defiance carrying her toward something new. She woke to the sound of alarms. Red lights were flashing. A voice was shouting over the ship's speakers. Could not understand all the words, but she understood the tone. Danger. Tal was awake too, his eyes wide with fear. What is happening? The door burst open. Stood there, her gun in her hands, her face set like stone. "Stay in this room," she said. "Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me." "What is going on?" demanded. "They found us, 3 warships. They want their property back." Eyes were hard and angry. "They are not going to get it." She slammed the door shut. Heard her footsteps running down the hall. Tal grabbed his arm. "Are we going to die?" Held him close. Through the small window in their room she could see the darkness of space. And in that darkness, 3 massive shapes were getting closer. The warships. They were huge, much bigger than Defiance. Their weapons were glowing, ready to fire. 1 old human ship against 3 warships. It was impossible. There was no way to win. Then the captain's voice came over the speakers. It was a woman's voice, calm and steady despite everything. "All hands, this is Captain. We have 3 enemy ships and 47 civilians on board. I am not losing either one today. Battle stations, everyone. Let us show these slavers what happens when they mess with humanity." The ship shook as they accelerated toward the enemy. They were not running, they were attacking. Held Tal and watched through the window as Defiance flew straight into the fire. The warships were beautiful in a terrible way. They were long and sleek, built for hunting and killing. Their dark hulls swallowed light. Their weapons glowed with deadly green energy. Any one of them was twice the size of Defiance. And there were 3 of them. Watched through the small window as Defiance flew toward the enemy fleet. It made no sense. A smart captain would run. A logical captain would surrender. But these humans were not smart or logical. They were something else entirely. The first volley of weapons fire lit up the darkness. Green beams of energy shot toward Defiance like angry lightning. The ship twisted and rolled, dodging most of the shots. The ones that hit made the whole vessel shake and scream. Tal buried his face against his shoulder. He was crying. Held him tight but could not look away from the window. She had to see. She had to know. Captain's voice came over the speakers again. She was giving orders to her crew, her voice sharp and clear. Did not understand all the technical words, but she understood the tone. Total confidence. Zero fear. Defiance returned fire. Its weapons were not as powerful as the guns, but they were accurate. Saw explosions bloom on the hull of the nearest enemy ship. Small damage, but damage nonetheless. The battle became chaos. Defiance wove between the 3 warships, never staying in one place long enough to be an easy target. It used everything around it for cover. At one point, the ship flew behind a large asteroid, letting the rock absorb the enemy fire. Then it came around the other side and hit them from an unexpected angle. Realized something. The humans were not just fighting. They were playing a game. A deadly, desperate game where one wrong move meant death, but they were playing it brilliantly. The door to their room burst open. A human crew member did not recognize rushed in. She was young, maybe only a few years older than, with short red hair and a bleeding cut on her forehead. "Are you 2 okay?" she asked quickly. "Yes," said. "What is happening out there?" "We are winning, sort of. The captain is crazy, but she knows what she is doing." The young woman grinned despite the blood on her face. "My name is, I'm supposed to make sure all the passengers are secure. Stay here, stay down, and do not worry. We have been in worse situations." "Worse than this?" asked in disbelief. Laughed. "Once we fought off a conquered patrol that thought we were pirates. 4 ships, all bigger than these junkers. The captain bluffed them into thinking we had a secret weapon. They ran away." "Did you have a secret weapon?" "No, just Captain and her beautiful lying face." Winked. "I have to check on the others. Remember, stay down." She was gone as quickly as she came. The battle continued. Lost track of time. It could have been minutes or hours. The ship shook constantly. Sometimes the lights flickered. Sometimes strange noises came from the walls, sounds of metal bending and systems struggling to keep working. At one point, saw run past their door. Her armor was scorched and she was carrying ammunition in her arms. A few minutes later, she ran past again, this time carrying an injured crew member over her shoulder. Blood was dripping on the floor but did not slow down. These humans were incredible. They were terrifying. They were impossible. Through the window, watched one of the ships suddenly explode. Not a small explosion, but a massive one that tore the vessel apart from inside. Defiance had hit something important, maybe the engine or the weapon storage. The two remaining ships hesitated. Their formation broke. For the first time, they seemed uncertain. Captain did not let them recover. Defiance pressed the attack, hitting the second ship with everything it had. The vessel tried to retreat, but Defiance followed it, hammering its engines until they caught fire. Then something shocking happened. Defiance turned directly toward the damaged ship and accelerated. "What is she doing?" whispered. The ship's speakers crackled. Captain's voice filled the room. "All hands brace for impact." Grabbed Tal and threw both of them against the wall, holding the safety handles as tight as she could. Defiance rammed the ship. The impact was like nothing had ever experienced. The whole world became noise and shaking and chaos. She heard metal screaming, systems failing, alarms wailing. Tal was screaming too, his small voice lost in the destruction. Then everything went quiet. For a terrible moment thought they were dead, but the lights were still on, the air was still flowing, they were still alive. She looked out the window. The ship they had rammed was broken in half, drifting uselessly in space. Its remaining systems sparked and flickered as it died. The third warship was running away, actually running away. It had turned and was flying in the opposite direction as fast as its engines could carry it. It was sending distress signals, calling for help that would come too late. Defiance had won. The ship's speakers crackled again. This time Captain's voice was lighter, almost casual. "Damage report is ugly, but we are still flying. Medical teams start treating the wounded. Engineering, I want a full systems check. We are going to limp to neutral station and collapse in the nearest repair bay." A pause. "Everyone, you fought like heroes today. When we get to port, drinks are on me." A ragged cheer echoed through the ship. Could hear it coming from everywhere, from every corridor and room and corner of this battered, impossible vessel. The door opened, stood there. Her face was covered in sweat and ash. Her armor was dented and burned. One of her arms hung at a strange angle, probably broken, but she was smiling. "Told you," she said, "they were not going to get you." Stared at her. This human had fought an impossible battle. She had risked her life for strangers. She had been injured, maybe badly, and she was smiling like it was nothing. "Why?" asked. The question came out before she could stop it. "Why do you do this? Why do any of you do this?" Walked over and sat down heavily on the floor. She looked tired but satisfied. "Because you are worth fighting for," she said simply. "All of you, every person on this ship, every child, every grandmother, every scared colonist who just wanted to grow vegetables and live in peace. You are worth it. But you could have died." "Yes. You could still die. Your arm is broken. You are bleeding." "Will fix me up. He always does." Tal crawled over too. His small blue face was streaked with tears, but he was not crying anymore. He looked at the human warrior with something like wonder. "You are very brave," he said. Reached out with her good hand and gently touched his head. "So are you, little one. Hiding in that dark place for so long, not giving up, that is the bravest thing of all." She looked at, "Both of you are brave. Your parents would be proud." At the mention of her parents, felt the tears come again. But this time they were not just sad tears. They were complicated tears, mixing grief with gratitude with something she could not name. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving us." Nodded. "You are welcome. Now get some rest. We have a long journey ahead, and I have a feeling the hard part is not over yet." She was right about that. but for now, in this moment, allowed herself to feel safe. She held Tal close, and together they watched the stars drift past the window, leaving the battlefield behind. Somewhere out there, they were retreating with their broken ship and their wounded pride. They had learned a lesson today. Do not underestimate humans. Do not threaten what they have decided to protect. Because they will fight, they will bleed, they will break themselves against impossible odds, and somehow, impossibly, stubbornly, magnificently, they will win. Neutral Station was the biggest thing had ever seen. It floated in space like a small moon made of metal and light. Ships of every shape and size flew around it like insects around a hive. Species from across the galaxy came here to trade, to negotiate, to escape, to start new lives. Defiance limped into the station's repair bay, barely holding together. Half the ship's systems were damaged. There were holes in the hull covered with emergency patches. Smoke still rose from some sections, but it had made the journey. It had carried them to safety. The survivors were brought to a large medical center inside the station. Doctors and nurses of many different species worked to treat injuries and check for sickness. Conquered officials walked around with, taking names and asking questions. Held Tal's hand as they waited. Around them, other survivors sat quietly. Some were crying. Some were staring at nothing. All of them were lost, trying to understand what had happened to their world. A tall, conquered administrator approached them. It had large, compound eyes that showed no emotion. Its voice was flat and mechanical when it spoke. Names, it asked. And Tal replied, from the agricultural district. The administrator checked its parents. Swallowed hard. We do not know. They told us to hide before the attack. They did not come back. Listed as missing, presumed deceased. The administrator made a note. You will be processed as orphans. Temporary housing will be provided at a refugee center until permanent arrangements can be made. The way it said the words made stomach turn. They were not people to this administrator. They were numbers, problems to be solved and filed away. What kind of permanent arrangements? She asked. There are several options. Foster placement on Concord-approved worlds, group residential facilities for displaced minors, eventual citizenship applications when you reach legal age. The administrator paused. The Concord will ensure your basic needs are met: food, shelter, education. Basic needs. As if that was all that mattered. As if losing everything could be fixed with food and a bed. Tal pressed closer too. He understood enough to be scared. He did not want to go with this cold creature to some facility where they would be just two more orphans among thousands. Come, the administrator said. I will take you to processing. Did not move. She looked around desperately, hoping to see a familiar face. Hopping to see or Captain, anyone from Defiance. Wait. The voice came from behind them, turned and saw walking toward them. Her broken arm was wrapped in a medical brace. Fresh bandages covered cuts on her face and neck, but she was standing straight and her eyes were sharp. I am claiming guardianship of these children, said. The administrator's compound eyes seemed to flicker with something like confusion. Excuse me, you are a human, a mercenary. You have no legal standing in Concord child welfare proceedings. Article 7, Section 3 of the Orphan Compact, recited calmly. Any citizen of a recognized species may claim guardianship of displaced minors if they can demonstrate means of support and the absence of closer biological relatives. Check your own laws. The administrator stared at her. This is highly irregular. There are procedures, forms to fill out, background checks to complete. Then start completing them. Crossed her arms, which must have hurt with her injury, but her face showed nothing. I am not going anywhere. The Conquered does not recognize. The Conquered recognizes Article 7, Section 3. I know because I helped rescue 300 children from a slave transport 2 years ago, and I learned that law very carefully. Now check it. The administrator was silent for a long moment. Its eyes dimmed as it accessed legal databases, watched its face, if you could call it a face, for any sign of what it was finding. Finally, the administrator lowered its. The claim is technically valid. However, approval will require review by a family placement committee. This could take weeks. I will wait. The children will need to remain in temporary housing during this period. Then I will stay at the temporary housing with them. The administrator seemed frustrated, though it was hard to tell with its alien features. This is not how things are normally done. I do not care about normal, stepped forward until she was very close to the administrator. These children lost everything. Their home, their parents, their whole world. The Conquered did nothing to protect them. Your patrol ships were 3 systems away while they burned their colony to ash. So do not talk to me about procedures and normal. Just process the paperwork and let me take care of these kids. The administrator was silent for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been a sigh. Very well. The claim will be submitted for review. You may stay with the children at the temporary facility until a decision is made. It walked away without another word. Watched it go, then turned to look at Tal. Her hard expression softened into something almost nervous. I should have asked you first, she said. I did not think. I just saw that thing trying to take you away and She paused. Do you want this to stay with us? You can say no. The Conquered facility might be fine. I do not want to force you into anything. Looked at this human woman, this stranger who had pulled them from the rubble, who had fought an impossible battle to keep them safe, who had risked her life again and again for people she had never met before. Why asked, why do you want us? Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion she was trying to hide. When I was young, after my parents died, a stranger took care of me. She did not have to. She gained nothing from it, but she saved my life. She gave me a home and a purpose. Looked at them with eyes that glistened with tears she would not let fall. I cannot replace your parents. I would never try, but I can give you a home. I can keep you safe. I can make sure you never have to be alone again. Tal stepped forward. He reached out and took his hand in his small blue fingers. I want to stay with you, he said simply. The trust in his voice was complete. Looked at, waiting for her answer. Thought about everything that had happened. The fire and the fear. The hiding and the hopping. The moment when a human shadow fell over them and everything changed. She thought about her parents. What would they want for her? They had always taught her to look for goodness in others, to trust in kindness, to believe that the universe, despite all its cruelty, had room for love. This human was proof of that. This whole ship full of stubborn, impossible humans was proof of that. Yes, said, we will stay with you. His eyes finally overflowed. Tears ran down her face. She pulled both children into a hug, wrapping her good arm around them while being careful of her injured one. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we are going to be okay. Behind them, the Conquered administrator watched with its cold, compound eyes. It would file reports about this incident. The Conquered would note it and discuss it and ultimately dismiss it. They would continue to underestimate humans, to see them as minor players in the grand galactic order. They would never understand what they were looking at. Because the thing about humans was not their weapons or their ships or their technology. It was not their anger or their stubbornness or even their courage. It was their hearts. In a universe that often forgot the small and the weak, humans remembered. They reached out their hands to strangers. They fought battles that made no logical sense. They loved fiercely, completely, without asking what they would get in return. Understood now. She understood why her father had called them angry children who thought they could fight anyone. He had not been wrong, but he had missed the important part. They fought for anyone too. Months later, stood on the Bridge of Defiance as it flew through open space. Tal was in the common room, learning card games from and losing badly. was beside the captain discussing their next mission. They were a family now, a strange family of humans and two blue-skinned alien children. They did not make sense together. They should not have worked. But they did. Captain had welcomed them without hesitation. The crew had adopted them as their own, was learning to navigate starships. Tal was learning to read human writing. Both of them were learning what it meant to be part of something bigger than themselves. Looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a burned and ruined world, the ashes of her old life were slowly being covered by new growth. Velar Prime would recover eventually. Some survivors would return. Life would continue. And somewhere out there, other children were hiding in the dark. Other worlds were burning. Other screams were going unanswered. But not for long, because Defiance was flying toward them, because humans were coming. And when humans decided to protect something, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Smiled and watched the stars. She was home,